So, most people say welding aluminium with oxy-acetylene is an absolute nightmare and nearly impossible. Well, it can be, but with the right flux, a good fit up, some clean panels and decent filler rod, completely possible, completely achievable, and you'll even surprise yourself with the quality you can get. So when welding with oxy-acetylene, it's pretty important to see what pressure your torch requires. So these Dillon Mark III torches require, what do they ask for? 28 kPa or 4 psi or 0.26 bar. And they want equal pressure on your oxygen and your acetylene. So you just adjust that through your low pressure regulators to what it wants. There we go. Most torches operate in that vicinity, maybe slightly higher, slightly less, but you've got quite a bit of leeway with the pressure. So if you're slightly more, slightly less than they require, it's not a problem. If you don't have the manual for your torch, just go with what the Dillon is or Google it and you'll find it there. So I'm lucky enough to have a complete set here so I can see welding material thicknesses use different size tips. So we're going to be welding 1.5 millimeter aluminium. So we're going to use tip number 0. You can see there, we just grab the tip that's got no line on it. That's tip 0. One line is 1, 2 lines is 2. And then we're just going to change it on our torch. Wham, bam, thank you, man. We could actually use tip 0 or tip 1 because it's nothing to 1.5 millimeters and tip 1 is 1.5 millimeters to 3 millimeters. So you could go with either one, depending where you're welding, how you're welding, personal preference on those two almost. So I've also got this Afrox oxy-acetylene torch that I used to weld with. Don't anymore, but when I welded with it, I would just use the same pressure the Dillon torch asks for. And there we go. Don't have a manual for it, so I don't know what it requires. Could Google it, but just went with the same pressures the Dillon asked. So when changing the tips on your oxy-acetylene torch, you want your shank to be tightened to your barrel. You actually want that to be tight. But then the tip itself, not finger loose, but you just want to nip it to come loose. So your shank tightened in your barrel is going to be a lot more than the tip itself. Then we put the required tip size on, finger tighten, bam, 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 bam. Then all we're going to do, we're not going to put force behind it. We're just going to nip it. There we go. That's all. Happy days. That's what we want. Ready to weld. So when welding aluminium with oxy-acetylene, what flame are we looking for? We're looking for a just off feather flame, also known as a neutral flame. What that is equal parts acetylene to oxygen. So, whoa, a bit much acetylene there. We'll go. No acetylene. We'll light our torch, turn the torch off. Whoopsie, light the torch. What we can do is add acetylene, Then we start adding oxygen. We're going to form another cone in the center of the acetylene flame. There we go. Now we've got 3 cones. As the middle cone moves back and touches the smallest cone, we know as it touches it, we have a neutral flame or just off feather flame. We don't want to add more because then the flame's going to change. Just like that, equal, even, happy days. There we got a neutral flame ready to weld. So there we can see our 3 cones. As we add more oxygen, start shrinking. 2 cones are about to touch. Wham, bam. Just off neutral, a neutral or just off feather flame. There we go, ready to weld some aluminium. When welding aluminium, I like to use the exact same material as a base material and as a filler rod. So I've got some 5754 H22 aluminium. That's what I'm going to be welding. So I'll take a piece of scrap, just go to the stomp shear and cut myself some filler rod. The thickness of the filler rod I usually go for is if I'm welding 1.5 mil thick material, I'll take a piece and I'll cut it 1.5 millimeters wide. So I've essentially got a square piece of filler rod. Cut a couple of those, clean it, get to welding. So when welding aluminium, it is extremely important to keep it as clean as possible. So I've cut 2 pieces in the stomp shear. They're perfectly straight, so we've got a nice fit up. All I'm going to do is take a deburring tool and just deburr the edges on both sides. Wham. Bam. Wham, done. There's one. On to the next one. Happy days. Now, when we clean this edge with a lappy, it's not going to have any sharp pieces that are going to tear off pieces of our lappy or just get dirt or material stuck in there. Once it's clean, it's easy, it's nice. Now we go to the cleaning. What we do then, we get a brand new lappy, rag, piece of material, whatever you've got, a little bit of acetone, and we just go shabam. Put a little bit on, then put more than we need. And you go and you whop. Do it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Make sure it's clean. Give that thing a good scrub. Happy days. You only have to clean the edge and a little bit in from where you're welding. So the other side, we're not worried about at all. There's one clean. Now we're going to put our clean side facing up so that it doesn't get dirty again. Then to the filler rods. A little bit more acetone. We're just going to drag the filler rod through. Turn it 90 degrees, drag it through again. Turn it 90 degrees, drag it through. Flip it around. We just want to make sure we clean both sides of the filler rod and all the corners. There we go. 1, 2. There we go. 2 pieces of filler rod. We're not going to need more than that. Let's get to welding. So when welding aluminium with oxy-acetylene, we have to use a flux. So I've got a flux here that you mix with water. The point of the flux is aluminium, as soon as it's exposed to oxygen or air, it forms an aluminium oxide layer on the surface, a crust, as you could say. So the problem with that is that's got a much higher melting temperature than what's just underneath the surface and doesn't have an oxide layer because it hasn't been exposed to the air yet. So all the flux does is it does some chemical science stuff goodness that when it's heated up, it allows that aluminium oxide layer to melt at a lower temperature that's closer to the material inside that hasn't been exposed to air yet. So once we start welding also, we're opening up the material. And we can think of the flux then as almost a raincoat and the air being the rain, so that as the material's melting, it's opening up and it would usually form another aluminium oxide layer. But we've got the flux acting as a raincoat and the air acting as rain. So it's just passing by and the flux is causing a nice layer protecting it from oxidization and we can carry on welding. Hopefully that makes sense. So when we start mixing the flux, the consistency we're looking for is a thick pea or pumpkin soup. Not water, but not a thick soup. We're looking for something thin. A guava juice, freshly squeezed guava juice. That's what you're looking for. So it's going to be almost a paste, but still somewhat liquid. Yeah, if my explanation doesn't work, here's some visualization. So the great thing about that is that's not the consistency we're looking for. It is a bit too, no, you get away with that, but I want it a little bit thicker. So what we can do, just grab eensy beensy tiny weeny bit more flux, chuck that in there, mix it up. Happy days. There we go. This is the consistency we're looking for. It can still run around, but it's not running freely and easily. So now what we do is we get a paintbrush that's way too big and very impractical. Just dip one corner in our flux and paint both sides. The top and the back side. We'll get to that when we get to that. We don't have to put lots, just a thin little layer. There we go, one side. The other side. So when I move these clamps and weld those corner sections, I just have to remind myself and remember, hey, we don't have flux there. We must apply some more. There we go, flux both sides there. Then we come to our filler rods, because as we dunk them, we don't want them to oxidize either. You can get away with not putting flux in your filler rods. Many people do. I was just taught to do it, and yeah, now I do it. So I personally am not a fan of oxy-acetylene welding. I've welded many bodies before with it, but I just find it very impractical lugging around a big oxygen bottle, a big acetylene bottle, the cleanup. It's just a mare. Grab a TIG machine, weld the body with that. I find it to be a lot more time efficient. So if you enjoyed this video of aluminium welding with oxygen acetylene and are interested in seeing how I do it with TIG, leave a comment, leave a like, let us know what you want to see about the TIG machine. Do you want setup? Do you want the method? Do you want how? What do you want in the video? And then we'll get in that in the future. Ready to weld. So what we're going to do to start is we're going to just go. Make sure our gas is on. Sweet, sweet. Now we go and find our neutral frame. Equal parts oxygen to acetylene. We get those inner cones to touch. There we go. Happy days. Just off feather or a neutral flame. Now we need that flux to do its science stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our filler rod. We're just going to heat it up a little bit. Wham, bam. Now the chemicals are doing their chemical things. Don't know what they're doing, how they're doing it, but thank you for whoever invented it. Let me do the same here. Heat that flux up. Do your chemical goodness. And we're ready to weld. Let's get to it. So when welding with oxy-acetylene, I find it warps a lot. So to start, I'll go and tack my panel every 15 to 20 mils. I'll have a whole bunch of tacks, then I clean all the flux off, I apply a new flux, and then I'll give it a final pass and weld the whole thing through. So when I was talking about warpage and tacking it, this is what I was referring to. We can see now the panels are on two different planes. So all I'm going to do now is give it a little bit of hammer and dolly, get on the same plane again, and then tack it up some more. Okay, so what I've done now, I've tacked the panel up. All I've done is put it under a tap, some wire wool, cleaned off 60% of the flux. Now all I'm going to do is dry it, heat it up to dry it, apply some new flux, and do the final weld. Right or wrong, do you have to remove the flux? Do you not? Many people do, many people don't. It's just how I was taught, so I am sticking with doing it. So when welding with oxy-acetylene, you have to get yourself a set of cobalt glue glasses. That's cobalt, C-O-B-A-L-T, possibly, that's how you spell it. Just get the oldest ones you can find, because the older the cooler, I guess. Yeah, the reason of that is the flame from the oxy-acetylene lets off invisible UV and IR rays. So that's extremely terrible for your eyes, along with visible, really bright lights. So the cobalt blue lenses block out that for the most part, so that hopefully you can weld today, tomorrow, for the next 60 years and still be able to read a book. Yeah, get them. You want to hold your torch at about 15 to 20 degrees from perpendicular. That way you're not pushing the filler rod too much or pushing straight down, trying to blow holes like that in the material. Oy. We are blowing holes. I have not welded oxy-acetylene in a while. So when welding with aluminium with oxy-acetylene, we want to wait till the material looks almost wet, and then we're going to dab our filler rod in, and you're going to see it's going to suck it up like a sponge in water. And that action of the aluminium sucking up the filler rod we call the capillary effect. We want our torch to be roughly 5 millimeters, the tip of the torch 5 millimeters away from the base material that we'll be welding. That's the basics of oxy-acetylene welding, and this is the product I'm left with. We can see where I blew some holes and filled them as I was welding. I used to be able to weld a lot neater. When I was doing my apprenticeship, we'd weld the bodies with oxy-acetylene, but I haven't touched a welding oxy-acetylene torch in about 2 years. So the fact that it's not one giant hole, pretty chuffed with myself, because this is a skill you can drop away and fall away real quick. But that's how to do it. Now we just go to clean it. So to clean it, I'm gonna use some Scotch-Brite, just some regular soap, and scrub it. Then there's majority of the flux off. You wanna get it as clean as possible before you start body working this or grinding it or do anything, because the flux is very, very corrosive. So if you get it on a hammer or a dolly, it just says, how's it? And rust appears. So I don't like my tools rusting, so I try to scrub it and scrub it and scrub it. Here's the front side and the back side, where we have full penetration plus some in some spots. Let's clean it, and then you can see. All we do now, some regular old dishwash soap on some wire wool, and we just put some on the top side, put some on the back side, and scrub it a doodle. I like to clean it while it's still somewhat hot. You can see some steam coming off there. I find the flux comes off much easier then. Shabam! Scrubbed with the soap. All we're gonna do now is go under some water, scrub it a little bit more, get the soap off, and just wash the residue of the flux off. It's done. Get it grinding and planishing. So we can see here's the top side. I started by blowing some holes and carried on welding. Bam, bam. Got a little bit neater as I went on, just because, yeah, some muscle memory came back. Then started blowing some holes again. And if we have a look on the back side, we have almost full penetration everywhere. There's a slight little spot there and there where you can see a little monkey butt popping through. So what we'd have to do then is put some flux on there, on the front and the back, just touch it with a torch, weld it again. So when I'm welding, you can fusion weld with oxy-acetylene and a decent flux. I just like a filler rod because it's not hard to grind down. Go grind it down. It's just much easier, and you can hold the consistent temperature with a filler rod. I say that after blowing holes, not holding consistent temperature. But when you do it often, you can. So that's what we're left with. Now, moral of the story is don't gas weld your panels. Use some technology, get an AC, DC TIG welder, flip that AC switch on and go and blast with a TIG welder. 100 times easier, 100 times faster. There's less cleanup, and that might ruffle some feathers, but I love it. TIG machine, TIG all day. Take it, take it. Don't throw your oxy-acetylene torch away. Take it. So we can see a decent oxy-acetylene weld is pretty damn structural. I mean, if I come to the corner here, I can bend it, and I can bend it back, and I can bend it back, and I can bend it back, and I can bend it back. And now we're just bending next to the weld because it's work hardening. But let's bend it one more time and show you. We don't have the slightest of tears or cracks in that. So yeah, it's a decent weld. It's just impractical.